The Unrelating podcasts are meant to be for education and entertainment. They don't constitute a service or advice. For personal struggles, please reach out to a medical or mental health professional. Kel, it's good to be back with you. We had a short hiatus as we enjoyed some summertime fun.
Yeah, you were out of town for like 3 weeks?
2 weeks, yeah.
Oh, 2 weeks. It felt like 3 weeks.
It actually went by really fast. But yeah, back in Michigan. I know we mentioned that we're from Michigan a lot on the show, but Michigan pride.
So you're able to sort of mentally kind of recharge, I'm guessing, right?
Yeah, I think, when you're coming off a vacation and going back to work, you feel a certain level of burnout, like, oh, I don't want to re-engage my work brain. And so I did have some fantasies of like, hey, I just want to, quit my job and go work at Trader Joe's and, not have the stress that comes with the type of job I have. But then quickly I'm like, no, but I actually love what I do. Darn. I guess it's back to the grindstone.
Yeah. And that's actually a great segue to today's guest. We want to talk about the concept of careers, career change, career pivoting.
Even just getting a job, right? Just how to prepare for college, how to prepare for the workforce.
And you, in your position, you've hired people. I've hired people. We know what that process is like. We also know what it feels like to be hired and how hard that can be. So we can talk to it from both positions and then obviously get some advice from our guest about how she would recommend people interview.
Yeah. And what sort of supports she has for people who either struggle with that piece or, who aren't finding success, either in finding a job or finding a direction for their life that feels right for them. So I'm excited to hear what sort of things she puts in place for her clients.
Yeah. The one thing that's important when you obviously interview is confidence, right? How do you deliver confidence and how do you appear confident or how do you find confidence and how do you prepare to be confident?
Right. And what a fine balance that is, I guess, depending on what the interviewer is looking for. But it's like you want to be confident, but not arrogant. You want to be competent, but not, seem myopic about what your focus is. There's just you want to be friendly, but not overly friendly.
Yeah. Not braggadocious, but at the same time, you want to be, read the room, right? To a certain degree.
Yeah, you want to show some depth or reflective capacity, certainly in your to be able to reflect on who you are and your strengths, but not overshare. It can. Let's see, I'm already getting overwhelmed. Like if you're interviewing for a job, it's very nerve-wracking.
Yeah, and I think this is a really important topic especially for today, because people are dealing with this. With the job market and with all these uncertainties, certainly people are either pivoting or they're certainly looking for a new job. And, this is really important to kind of focus on right now. You got to get a job,
Especially with the landscape changing, it's hard to know what to do. It'd be great if someone could just tell me, do this and do that, which I guess is what our guest does. So eager to hear from her.
Hi, I'm Kelly.
And I'm Michelle.
Welcome to Unrelating with Kel and Michelle.
I've been a licensed marriage and family therapist for over 2 decades.
And I'm the show producer and co-host.
Together, we'll explore how we engage in relationships,
why we do what we do,
and what causes people to unrelate.
Joining us today on Unrelating is Julia Evans. She is an education consultant and life coach, helping individuals navigate career development, college admissions, and personal growth. Welcome to the podcast, Julia.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
We're very excited to have you on the podcast. And this is going to be one of those conversations I think that, not only will our listeners benefit, but your host here will certainly benefit as well. Hey, Michelle.
Yes, you have personal interest.
Yes, I'm selfishly interviewing you.
As do I, though. I'm so curious because I was just telling Kelly before we started the show. I have an open position in where I currently work, and just going through some interviews. And I was telling Kelly, like, there's such a variety in how people prepare and/or portray themselves in interviews.
Or don't prepare, right?
Or don't. Yeah, I'm like, wow, that person really could have utilized someone, guiding them and giving them some feedback about how they're coming across. And it's not my job, but probably would have done a better job. Yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting process that people go through, and they really don't prepare enough.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's kind of like preparing for this interview. Julia, I kind of did some research on you, your background a little bit. You obviously looked at your website and your marketing and, using that as a starting point. And then, we used to kind of sort of craft some. And I had questions for you. You may have questions, obviously, as if this is an interview, you had questions for me. So I want to be prepared for that, right?
Yeah,
So it's a conversation.
Yeah, and from a psychological perspective, it's a moment where likely you're going to be nervous.
Oh, yeah.
And so you have to kind of help yourself through that and have some coping skills because that's going to affect how you come across too, and how easy or not easy it is to access what you did prepare if you did.
Right. Yeah, I prepared. I kind of wrote down the questions and kind of like put my little thoughts together. So again, I can kind of stay on track so I don't get off on a tangent.
So let's start with Julia, I guess getting some backstory on you and how you got into this field and I guess where the genesis of your career started.
Yeah. So I have a very unique career journey. I was actually for many years a corporate controller, accounting, right?
Okay.
So how does one get to this point?
Yeah.
So, in recruiting, I've had the privilege of interviewing people, doing mock interviews, writing resumes and stuff. So I transitioned into recruiting for accounting and finance professionals. So that was kind of, again, just in a totally different trajectory. Then I'm like, well, I'm only used to accounting. I don't really do this. So then I kind of discovered that what people, they lacked clarity and some stability. And so I ended up kind of coming to the realization that I think a lot of people could use this. So that's kind of where Guide Path Advisors was developed.
Mm-hmm.
I actually initially started life coaching. So I have a life coach certification. And at first I thought I was going to go more into the wellness and life coaching field. And that really just isn't where it took me.
Yeah.
So it just kind of worked out perfectly. I can kind of address this now. So with my life coaching clients, a lot of their challenges are with their careers.
Yep.
And I thought, well, how perfect is this? I've done this before. I can totally do this. I did it for 8 years. I loved it. So it just kind of was a natural formation to put the business together.
We hear the term life coach a lot, I think. And what is a life coach? And how would you describe what you do?
So to speak to how I also kind of got into it, I was actually struggling with my career.
Yeah.
I was at a point where it's like, okay, I want to do something else. I'd like more flexibility. How can I take all my skills and roll it into a job, right, or a career? I actually went to a life coach. So, so people use them for different reasons, whether they're struggling with self-esteem or they're looking for a career or direction, basically, is I think where people utilize them. And I do a lot of different education with people that I think my peers do, because I'm on networking with other life coaches. So I like to, speak to them and ask them, like, what are you doing? So, we totally do different things, which is interesting. So there's just such kind of a gambit of it. So I went to this life coach and I was looking for career direction. And so he had me create a timeline of all of my jobs and what I had done, for the past 30 plus years. And so then I came to the conclusion, after looking at jobs, I kind of put some up top and some down below, like what I love to do, what I was kind of overdoing. I didn't want the stressful job. I didn't want to work 12 hours a day anymore. So I just kind of came to this conclusion. I love helping people.
Yeah.
So, having between the confidence and then the confidentiality of working with people and it just kind of naturally came to me. So it's been work. It's been a lot of work. It's actually been kind of evolving. So again, where I started life coaching initially, and then it really transitioned and kind of transformed into the career coaching side, which later on then kind of now I'm working with high school students getting into college.
I think you touched on something that I think is really important is that, people, especially in midlife, they have these career sort of, we did an episode a few weeks ago about midlife crisis, or what is a midlife crisis, and people, they have identity crisis as they get older, right? And that's something you probably see in your practice, and people are like trying to figure out, okay, I'm sick and tired of doing this grind, and I need to change, and I want to actually have some meaning in my career or my life. And what does that look like? And how can I help people?
Exactly.
And it seems like to be a theme we're seeing among a lot of people, especially nowadays.
Yeah. I find I work with Actually as early as ninth grade, believe it or not, all the way to someone who is in their 50s. I find a lot of people in their 50s who have, done the grind. They were, high tech and they don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
So I have exercise I do with people, which I can, get into later or now, whichever, works, helping them kind of find themselves.
Yeah.
So, I'll speak to it now. So I do what's called a RISAC assessment. And it was created by a couple of gentlemen many years ago. And what I love about it is it's not like a Myers-Briggs, which is only personality based. This is interesting in personality. So there's about 48 questions. It's not a time test or anything like that. So from the results, you can be like, let's say, socializing. You could be conventional, maybe enterprising. So like maybe you're a salesperson. Maybe you have that personality. So from there, I take their top 2 scores and I build a comprehensive report. And those reports actually indicate, okay, so this would be a good career for you, or this would be a good career for you. So now I've got 20 different career pathways. So I've got 10 for each of these. So the comprehensive part is that, AI risk, recession risk, outsourcing risk. What is the average salary, let's say, of the, where you live? Let's say I would say the Bay Area for, most of my clients here. And then the job description, day in the life. What does that look like? Best schools to go to for this. Can you do it with a certification? A lot of older people I work with, they're not going to go back to college, but can I do a certification? Can I then, transition? So then this gentleman I worked with, he was in high tech and he didn't want to do it anymore, high level program manager, et cetera. So we were able to kind of glean from everything that he had done. And I took all of his skills, kind of highlighted them all on his resume and thought, okay, what would you like to do? I gave him, certain different, a certain level of careers that he might want to transition into. Then he decided that he wanted to do more data analysis. So, but he had done it before. But then how does he parse that out? Because you may end up where someone's going to think you're overqualified, right? So we have to kind of tailor the resume to those skill sets and those traits that you can then transition into that. And so then that's where I kind of do resume writing, create them a new resume so they can kind of, at least confidently apply, for jobs they're looking for.
Yeah, that's so smart. Those are the pieces that I think just a layperson doesn't think about is,
Right.
and I've gotten resumes where they seem way overqualified and I'm immediately skeptical. I'm like,
Right.
I don't think you'll stay with us if you're, yeah.
Exactly.
But all of that is so helpful because I think one of the tough parts of a career pivot or transition is just feeling confused and overwhelmed and lost and not knowing how to tackle something that big.
Correct.
And so having something like a comprehensive report and all the details you do, those are things, like I said, people probably aren't even thinking on that level.
A lot of families are involved. They're, okay, I was the breadwinner. What am I going to do now? Am I going to make as much money, in that? So it's just, it involves the family. So there's a lot of decision making and, like you said, life pivots and can affect, a lot of things, your lifestyle, etc.
What do you say to kids, especially you mentioned working with kids in high school, which is a really important time because they're thinking about what they want to do.
Right.
People want to follow their passion. You hear that, like, I want to follow my passion. I'm passionate about, I don't know, the arts or filmmaking or whatever. But like at some point, you got to pay the bills and you got to have a good, lucrative career.
Exactly. So interesting about working with as young as ninth graders. So, there's this whole, like I have to figure it out for the rest of my life, what I'm going to do. Right. So like myself, I've had multiple different careers and, kind of did that. So I do the same assessment with them and it gives them, maybe insight to who they are. And it helps them then select electives that they have to have in high school to maybe get to college. Right. So I'm going to do this pathway. I think I'm going to go into nursing, et cetera. So am I taking, AP course? Am I taking 2 years of chemistry? Am I taking XYZ? Then they can work with their guidance counselors. They're overwhelmed. Like as an example, my kids went to high school where there was like 900 to 1,000 kids per grade.
Wow.
And there's no way with 4,000 students in a high school that those counselors, maybe there's 10 of them, can address anything career related with them. they're just doing, going through the motions and making sure they have the right courses selected. So it's very interesting. But I mean, I think they're grateful. They kind of feel relieved that they have some kind of outlook.
Yeah.
That they can at least, okay, take a deep breath. And again, it may not be your forever career, but at least you can start somewhere.
But should you feel passionate about something, or do you think, speaking for me as a good example, I went into television broadcasting.
Okay.
At the time, I was passionate about that, right? It was, the arts, and
Right.
I don't regret it at all. But but what maybe was the most lucrative career decision?
Okay.
Probably not, right? So looking back, should I have gone into maybe, I don't know, I could have gone into medicine, I could have gone into law, whatever. But that wasn't what my passion was.
Right.
And you can still find passion in what you're doing,
right?
If it isn't something that you're passionate about. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. Well, and you were passionate about something at one point. I mean, at this point in your life, well, it's okay. I've kind of been there, done that.
Yep.
So it's okay to transition. And that's why the report that I, pulled together of people is so important, because if they are passionate, let's say, about a certain field, I can build those careers into that. And so again, you have to kind of love what you do, right? Which is why I kind of transitioned in owning my own business.
Mm-hmm.
So it's then again, how can I take those skills and transfer them? Or you make it, like you said, like, I want to be a lawyer. I love digging into details. I love research. I love litigating, whatever that might be.
Yeah.
So you might make a complete career change. But then you have, again, schooling. What do you have time for? Do you want to go back to school 4 to 6 years, 8 years? Are you at, at an age in your life or point in your life when you are willing to do that? Mm-hmm. Or like I've talked with, like I said, mentioned earlier, is that people just might want to do certifications to get to the next step.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you also have to consider like where you are in your cognitive development. So if you're a teen or early 20s, you are thinking, you're not the most practical, potentially. Right. You are thinking more in terms of what am I interested in?
Right.
And at that age, you don't want to do things you're not interested in, although who does? But you're not quite at the level of adulting where you have to do things you're not interested in doing.
Right.
So just the mindset is different, I think.
Yeah. I actually talked to a lot of people in my age group, and we wish that we had guidance counselors to help us with career pathways. Like my parents, be an accountant, you're good at math. They'd crack open a newspaper. We'd sit there over the weekend. You can find an accounting job throughout the entire United States. And I was like, no, I don't want to do that. I want to be a cosmetologist. And they're like, no, you got to be self-employed. You got to pay your own insurance, et cetera, et cetera. So then, ironically enough, I ended up in accounting anyway for many years. It was kind of strange that I guess they were right. I don't know.
When I was in college, I had a career counselor tell me, because at the time I was majoring in television. He said to me, you won't get a job. And I was flabbergasted, and he literally crushed my soul. But I became very stubborn by that statement. Yeah. And I actually doubled down on it. Needless to say, I never had a problem getting a job. Okay.
Yeah, that's great.
But he kind of pissed me off and fueled my fire a little bit, right?
Yeah, for sure. That's interesting.
Yeah, I know.
Tenacious, right? If you have a pathway that you're really, again, passionate about, then do it. So go for it.
Well, I wonder too, if we stick with the kind of college age kid or the teenagers, I have complicated feelings these days about the state of colleges and universities. Mm-hmm. They've changed so much, in the past couple decades. But I just wonder if you've seen the landscape change in a way that has made you have to change the way you talk to people about college or readiness.
Right. So I actually attended a webinar by Lewis Newman, and he was actually a former dean at Stanford. And so something that he spoke to, which was so interesting, that people are lacking critical thinking skills. Mm-hmm. And communication, right? And we've got AI and technology, and they're hiding behind computers, and they don't know how to even do an effective email, et cetera, right? So something that he spoke to, which I thought was very interesting. So he did a lot of research with, tons of different people. And what even employers were finding is that kids weren't ready. They come and they've, been doing the routine. They got these rigorous programs. They're just going through the motions reading it, taking a test, reading it, taking a test. And so, but they really came without other, skills that were like, you have to work with people, think outside the box, and not just go through the routine like they did in high school or college. That actually then I think has translated into, so I live in a very competitive area where everybody has like over 4-point GPA. And so they're even taking junior college classes to kind of boost their GPA and whatnot. And so colleges are actually lowering their standards. So they're not taking the kids that are necessarily over 4.0 or have done all these extracurricular activities. They're looking for kids who are well-rounded. So not the kid that's just, and so I kind of try to talk with them about that. It's like, especially it's like, don't take more than 3 extracurricular activities. If you're doing sports, you're doing leadership, you're doing debate, you're doing all these things, like cut it down. And I think parents have been a little happy with that. So they're not, and again, you got to be careful of, them pushing their kids too hard, right? Into wanting to do all these things because that's going to get them into college. Not necessarily. It's changing. The landscape is changing, which I'm kind of happy about. So I kind of feel like the underdog, so to speak, or maybe the person who's got a 3.7 GPA, 3.8 can get into college. So,
yeah. And might actually have some soft skills that will help them succeed better.
Right.
Than the ones that are so like myopically focused on achievement.
Right. And taking the test. You can take a test really well, but outside of that, where are you going to, use your communication skills? Like you said, soft skills.
You brought up the interesting point on mentioning soft skills and critical thinking, but like, are you seeing in your practice, are you seeing kids nowadays who are coming from this, social media heavy generation where they're not developing a lot of those soft skills? Like they're not going out and talking to people. They're online all the time, or they're texting.
Yeah. Correct. Yeah. This kind of brings me to a really cool area that I'm going to be working on. So I have a new client coming up, and it's actually, this guy's niece rather. And she's graduating an arts program. Again, we're going to probably do the RISAC assessment with her to make sure that, because again, she might be selecting something in the arts that doesn't make much money. Well, again, you can't put, food on the table if you don't have a job that's going to, provide. He wants her to, I'm going to be doing at the end of the month, some life coaching with her because again, they do lack those social skills. And she's got a little internship over the summer, but email etiquette, professionalism, and all of that goes with, and you don't know, whether they've had even a job in high school or what kind of their work ethic is and things like that. So I'm going to be helping her with that. And I have formulas. And it's interesting you mentioned, Michelle, about when you see resumes or like you're interviewing people, I have a formula. The first question most employers ask, tell me about yourself. Right. And you're not sure if is it professional, is it personal? What are they asking me here? So
I've seen people tripped up by that. Yeah.
Every single time. They right out the gate, they blow it. So I have a formula for people to follow. It's like, this is what you should be talking about. And then the person's like, in fact, I worked with somebody recently. I'm long-winded. I know that I screwed it up. I didn't, I was over talking and just talking too much. I'm like, okay, let's bring it down a notch. So I actually have a colleague of mine that does more. She speaks more to that than I do. So she actually has a drama background and she also does life coaching, but she works with people on that nervousness and how to bring that down. So I think that is greater for her skill set than maybe mine. So I love working with other life coaches where we can, all have our own different niches that we do. So we can help each other.
So when someone is nervous and kind of defaults to their baseline, whether it's blabbing on or freezing up, what sort of things do you help support with just building their confidence?
Yeah. So confidence is interesting because it's doing something kind of over and over, doing something consistent. So people think that confidence comes first, but actually the action comes first. So maybe being more prepared. And so I helped this one, I say kid, he was a recent graduate who wasn't finding a job and he wants to go into a certain career. And he's confident, but then when he goes in these interviews, he kind of just like all that falls. So I really work with them on, talk tracks. Here's how to be confident here, and again, even for older people, I guess kind of transitioning to that. So one thing I have people do, and I even have done it for myself if I wasn't feeling confident, go read your resume. Look at all your accomplishments. It's like, damn, I'm good.
Yeah.
Because you kind of forget about that. So that's one area I actually send people to. And so I help this young adult create a new resume, taking all of his skill sets that he was a finance director at his fraternity house. So he was doing a lot of accounting. He was doing, all sorts of stuff in that field. And because nobody would hire him or even bring him on board as an intern because he didn't have those skills, his resume didn't reflect that. I'm like, well, now it does. So he's getting his foot in the door with those skills that he didn't even realize he had. That's one thing I think that's great about having, because you interview the person initially, and then you kind of ask them, well, where are you at? What's your challenges, or what are you facing? What do you want to do? And, they don't reflect that on paper at all. They kind of forget things they do or they know how to do.
Well, confidence is important, Michelle. You're right. And because I feel like you can have the best resume in the world.
Right.
But if you're not confident, and if you don't come across confident, or at least fake it till you make it,
right.
I'm sure that affects if you get hired or not, right?
Yeah. I think one that's helpful is getting feedback and perspective from other people. How do you show up? And they might give you some advice, like maybe you're too hard. Maybe you don't, you're not effectively pulling leadership skills out because you're addressing, your staff of 20 and whatnot. So you kind of have to give yourself grace and permission to fail, because that will aid, quicker in your recovery. So you have to, allow for, well, I'm not perfect, right? So
it's kind of the approach we've taken with this podcast, Michelle. we started off rough, and we through repetition and through practice, we built up
proof that we're capable of it.
Right.
Which then helps us feel like we react to that.
Right. We feel more confident now.
Yeah.
Right. And then it comes across as more confident, and it just builds on itself. It just snowballs.
Right.
Yeah, well, in the moments when we are boneheaded, we're just like, well, that's not our baseline usually.
Right. I was smarter than what I was pretending to be. I was very nervous with my first client, right? Because I hadn't really done it. Although I have all these skills and all this behind me that I can bring forth, I then we worked together on how, to build her confidence. So I was learning just as much as she was. And so by the time I've had 100 clients, let's say, my confidence is greater. So now I really know what I'm speaking to. I have all the skills behind me now, but I can really speak to it.
Julia, how did you get through that first session? Yeah.
It's kind of interesting. You have to kind of fake it till you make it, but I couldn't let her know you're my first client. Right.
Okay.
Yeah. My first therapy client didn't know they were my first client.
Right. Exactly.
Oh, yeah. Do you think it's important to be transparent and say you're my first client?
No.
Okay. No. Don't tell them.
No.
What would that accomplish?
They're expecting you to fail. Right. Exactly.
Right. Well, and that confidence comes with time, right? So, but if you show up confident, and I knew my stuff, I knew she, because again, you kind of pull the information out of them, you kind of interview them. What are your struggles? What are your challenges? What are you having a hard time with? So then I can go from there. I can then pivot to, well, this is how I'm going to approach her sessions. I'm not going to just start talking, out of nowhere of, just what I know. Right. That would not be effective for her.
But you bring up an important piece of the work, which is getting to know the person in front of you. Yes, you have a structure that you follow that's helpful, but you really need to understand your client to effectively offer feedback.
Right. And each client is different. I have not had any client identical, maybe similar, but nothing. So each program, so to speak, is customized every single time. So I'm always redoing notes, redoing information I can provide them. In other words, what are you lacking or missing that I can provide for you? So it's a lot of work on my end, which I love. It's great. But I have to tailor it to them. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense.
So then what do you think happens when someone maybe has keeps getting rejected or, isn't finding success? What kind of ways can you help them with resilience or bouncing back?
Well, resilience, I mean, it's, you can't avoid difficult times, right? And I think for recent graduates, at least in the past, when I was, recently recruiting still, they come out of college, think they're going to make $100K a year. It's like, no, that's not going to happen. Whether you think you're going to become a CPA and you passed, maybe one part of the exam or something, or you're getting ready to sit for the exam, let's say. And so it's just so not reality. And I don't know where they're pulling this information from anyway. But, it's just, challenges that teach ourselves something about ourselves. And so I try to, all I can say is be as patient as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they're not applying to the right jobs, or maybe they need to do an internship first. I think getting your first job is difficult. Again, like we talked about a resume that may or may not show you who you are. And are you underqualified, right? The newbie is underqualified. But then someone who's older in their career, oh no, you're overqualified. So it's a fine line to, because you can't control everything that happens, but all you can do is, stay positive. So
yeah, the idea of resilience, and I'm a huge, proponent of that. But
yeah,
I'm hearing a lot about how, again, keep going back to, teens these days, but they aren't building that resilience that they probably should.
I think definitely. So the client that I'm going to be working with here shortly, one thing he mentioned that she hides in her room a lot. I'm like, oh, that's not good because my son does that. So you have to draw that. And, again, it's constantly interviewing them. What do you do in your room, or what do you like to do? What do you feel you can work on? You have to ask a lot of questions, and they have to do homework. Every single one of my clients does homework.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that sounds probably, daunting, but they have to put as much into it. Otherwise, they're not going to get anything out of it. So, this person who's going to be a senior in college, they don't really have anything, really real world. So yeah. I'm actually building a curriculum around her, which is really cool. It's that transition. So I'm calling it real world ready. So I have a lot of college students. I've got a lot of career people, but where's the transition? Where's the middle ground? So it's really cool. So I'm very excited to work with this new client, to kind of help, pull that out of her. Again, what if she wants to do an arts degree? Well, what are you planning on doing with that? So they may not know, which is why, doing not necessarily the assessment, but, doing some of those comprehensive reports that may help guide her in the right way.
And maybe also tackling expectations, because I think that can be tough too. A lot of people put a lot of high stakes expectations on interviews or on getting jobs, and thinking, oh, if I have to be the perfect fit, I have to say everything right, I have to come across a certain way. And I think we talked about this a little earlier about, not having to be perfect, and right. you will make some mistakes. Right. And then the recovery from those mistakes, that's a skill that needs building these days.
Right. Mm-hmm. I think what's interesting about, interviewing, it's practice, practice, practice.
Yeah.
So whether that's you're talking in the mirror or you really know your stuff, because again, like somebody's just over talking or they're just rambling on. So that will just kill their confidence to the next interview. So I was so glad to work with this one recent grad, and he was grateful. I got a great review from him, and I taught him so much, so to speak. And so he was just, again, really grateful that he can take those skills and now transition them into, again, practice, 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 and your next interview will get better.
And those are carryover skills. Once you get the job, and, working in a professional setting requires a similar overlapping ability to communicate, to have etiquette and consideration, and all of those things.
Yeah. One thing I like teaching people about is, and I think this kind of leans towards confidence building, we talked about a resume, and you're like, dang, I'm really good. I did some great accomplishments. And I think what people forget to do is continuously writing down those accomplishments. And I address the fact that, your annual, review comes up and you're like, I know I've done for the past year. So you've got to write all that down. I know it probably sounds like a lot of work, but then it comes for like a bonus, time. And you can't speak to what you've done because there might be more underlying than what your boss sees. You could be doing a lot more stuff or helping or building, certain things. Let's say, your job wasn't to help build a team or pull people together, but maybe you actually did that. So it's just very interesting. So he was like, oh, okay, I'll do that. I'll definitely keep up on that.
Yeah, I worked at a company, and they were really big into setting goals and then meeting those goals, and then you did quarterly check-ins, and they were really big on too, like writing everything down you do, because you're right, you're gonna forget it if you don't, and you need to keep track of all that, because at the end of the year, when it comes time for bonuses or for reviews, you got to have all that ammunition.
Correct. Yep. Totally.
Yeah, it's a great suggestion.
Yeah. So I think people also forget that the same goes for your resume, because this happens 99% of the time is that you don't keep up on your resume. You just don't.
Yeah.
So having those things written down will help you throw them into a resume later. Again, you kind of forget your skills and what can I do? What have I done?
Yeah. And then not having just the understanding of what to include and what not to include. And I know that, the positions we fill tend to be with younger folks, but if you're going for a therapist position, they don't need to know that you are an actor. If you are going for an admin position, they don't need to know that, that you did something completely unadmin before.
Right. Exactly. So again, somebody with admin skills, they may have worked at their parents' office over the summer or through the year, right? They're doing administrative stuff, but they don't realize it.
Yeah.
So they're not going to translate that into a resume. And then, of course, they always want to add this, that, and the other, or their GPA. I'm like, no, take that off. They don't really care. Or that you were, it's funny because this guy that was a dog walker. So they go, okay, well, how can we take some of that you do and put it maybe say more administrative? Well, you worked at the front desk and you help people check in and but they're like, I was a dog walker. Well, you're more than that. Pull it out.
Like you could say, I'm a project manager on so many things, because there's so many things you work on that you're technically managing a project, right?
Right.
So that's a good term you could use. And project managers are needed everywhere.
Yeah.
I'd love to get your take, Julia, on one specific topic. And speaking of challenges that I think both young and older people are facing nowadays is AI.
Yes.
And you keep hearing about this AI apocalypse, right? Feature in terms of jobs.
Right.
What advice or what counsel do you give clients who have to think about, okay, is this career even going to be around in 10 years?
Correct. And that's one thing I love about that comprehensive report that I pulled together, because that is one of them. So I can help them with doing the research on, is your job AI resilient? So I had a client that she was doing coding, I think. And so she was afraid, and her team was afraid that was going to be taken away. And so they've actually incorporated more as an executive assistant. So it's helping them. It's not taking their job away, which I was kind of glad to hear. I thought, okay, that's great. It's being utilized. It's not eliminating her position. So, but again, doing the research on it, where, the future is. Of course, I do help with AI to help me find that information.
Yeah.
This job may go away. So, and that's why it helps younger people when I do that report. It's you probably don't want to go into this. You can get the degree, but I wouldn't really try to go in this lane.
Yeah, because I'm hearing I read a lot about this just because I'm really interested in it, but there's certain careers that are going to probably be affected, customer service jobs, but they may have been affected anyway, just through attrition. I don't know. So
exactly.
And people are leaning more towards jobs that are more focused on connecting with folks, right? Because that's something AI can't do, is connect with human beings, like therapists, Michelle. That's a conversation that people need to be having now. for
Right.
10, 20, 30 years from now, 40 years from now.
Exactly. And I think I actually have some colleagues from my networking group that are photographers.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
And
yeah. Yeah.
now they're having challenges they've never seen before in the workplace. Everything they've done over so many years, creating mood boards for people, which maybe I actually like that about her particular, her offerings. A lot of times, AI is not going to do that for you.
Mhm.
It's just not. I mean, you can say, okay, here's a picture, upload it, create this, create that. But is it really who you are? So by creating, let's say we were talking about a mood board for mine, maybe redoing some pictures on my website, let's say. And so it's just so much warmer than this cold that people don't really realize, was it AI created or not?
Mm-hmm.
So, and then with marketing as well and communications and writing, your executive communications folks are challenged by that too.
And we're bombarded every day with all sorts of human interaction, and crowdedness and chaos. But humans need meaningful human interaction.
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
For their mental health, for their psychological health.
Right. Yeah, like socializing, pulling people out of from behind their computers in their rooms all day.
Intimacy.
Yeah,
is important.
exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Platonic intimacy too. I'm not just talking about, romantic intimacy, but feeling like you connected with another human on a level, on any level, that meant something to you is
right.
Part of feeling fulfilled in your life.
Yeah.
For most people, not all.
Yeah. It's interesting, and I'm sure you guys have seen this, you go out to a restaurant and the whole family is on their phone.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All of them. So I actually recently went to Europe, and I hardly saw anybody with a phone. I was like, this is amazing. I think people were interacting with each other.
Wow.
Which I thought, and it's just whether it's, the parents' responsibility to, minimize that, or if they're doing it themselves, I mean, come on. All four of them were sitting at the table doing this.
Yep.
They're all texting each other.
Yeah, exactly.
I saw that too, but it was 4 women and they were all taking pictures of their food and like interacting online with people, like posting their stuff, but not talking to each other.
It's lost. And then, so I'm trying to even incorporate into my practice, how can I, educate people, or how can I pull them out of that? And some of them might be exercises, go like networking, let's say.
Yep.
So how do you introduce yourself? What is your elevator pitch? What are you going to say to somebody? It's kind of the, like when you meet somebody for the first time, or even kind of in an interview, it's, very similar.
I've heard like other podcasters, Michelle, I listen to other podcasts too.
How dare you?
I know. Talk about young people are drinking less, and they're not going out as much, and they're losing those critical social skills and networking opportunities that we had growing up, and that we need to get back to that in many ways.
Yeah, networking is important. So in fact, that recent grad that I worked with, and again, the confidence in talking about yourself, again, create an elevator pitch.
Yep.
Repeat it, right? Over and over and over again, so you don't flub up when somebody asks you. But if he wants to get into wealth management and be a financial advisor, well, then attend some of those seminars, and again, do networking around that. Of course, he's nervous about networking. I've never done it before. I'm like, well, practice.
And I love that you give homework, because I struggle with this in therapy in terms of accountability. If you are putting money, time, effort into your services and you're just going to spend the 50 minutes a week or whatever, and then outside of that, you're not moving forward in any way. So I'm a big proponent calling it homework. I know you cringed when you said that too, but it's like, whatever you want to call it, it's like, what are you going to do for yourself outside of our time together? That's going to move you forward. And that's practicing, like you said, and trying the skills that we talked about.
Yeah, and I call it homework, but they're exercises. Let's say, for instance, one of my life coaching clients so she was experiencing, like self-esteem kind of issues. And she had a loving family, supportive family. She's been a stay-at-home mom for 12 years, doesn't want to change that, loved it all, but just kind of felt, flat. Like, what am I missing, that I need to fulfill myself? We did a 6-week program, and she had exercise maybe 1 or 2 a week, kind of that my life is horrible, my life is great. We'll compare the list. where are you really at? Are you just kind of overthinking this maybe? Or how do you then change those feelings about yourself? So I actually gave her a book on powerful mantras for women. Open up the book every day to a new page and kind of make that your day. And so it kind of helped build that confidence and that self-esteem in her that she was more than just a mom, because she had, quit the workforce, right, to become a stay-at-home mom. And again, there's something fulfilling about being in the workplace. You're socializing and you're, in meetings, or you've got maybe a high profile role that you're a manager and things like that. And then all that goes away. So, so the mantras I think are great. Self-talk. So she was really appreciative, and she was a really good client but she also put in the effort.
Yeah. Both intentionally engaging in positive self-talk and also having the skills to challenge negative self-talk.
Exactly.
Which are two separate but equal things.
I had a client that her mom paid for the sessions, and I think we did 8 of them. And she was really good at doing the homework, so to speak. But it was hard, though, pulling some of the information out of her, but she wasn't invested in it. Her mom was. So unless somebody really wants to do it, that makes my job very difficult. I struggled with her. I really liked her. Great gal. It was hard. It was very challenging.
It's almost like you're torn because you want to have that client, but you want them to be fully invested. And if they're not getting enough out of it, right? And I'm sure for you, that's probably
challenging.
It's challenging, yeah.
Challenging, sure.
Well, and Michelle, you mentioned homework, the word homework, but isn't it just being accountable?
Yeah. Creating a to-do list or whatever works for you, right? Everyone has a different method of, again, whether you're writing mantras down or you're, writing down, the self-talk or whatnot, kind of repetitively. So I find that's helpful for people.
Yeah. And taking ownership of the change potential. It's like, I can't change you for you.
Right. Exactly.
That's going to have to come from you, and I can support that change. But ultimately, if you don't take ownership of either the ability or inability to move forward.
On a personal level, like what do you get from mentoring people? Like you mentioned you've changed careers, but like I'd be curious like how this impacts you personally.
I find it rewarding. Mm-hmm. So I absolutely love it. I love what I do. I love working with people. Mm-hmm. In fact, so years ago when I transitioned from accounting into recruiting, marketing was involved too. Mm-hmm. I was like, I don't do sales. This is, this is not me. So they actually sent us to a class. So I call it Marketing 101. So it forced me to speak to people. I was an accountant. I just sat behind my desk and crunched numbers all day. So that totally changed me. And now that I work with people, it's so different. And again, just a different part of, rewarding. I loved accounting as well, but I just find it, much more rewarding.
Connecting with another person, you mean?
Yeah. Just good. I think it gives me good endorphins, so to speak. Because I get out of it just as much because I'm learning from them. Yeah. So I learn every day with clients.
Yeah. And it sounds like your creativity is in use all the time, creating new curriculums, improvising and thinking about new ways of doing things to help whatever client's in front of you.
Right. Yeah. And like I said, each one is different. Every client is customized from the get-go. And so again, interviewing them, it's more than just an intake call, right? So it's like that first session is really, getting to know each other. So sometimes if I have like a 6-week program, you meet once a week, those 6 weeks, you should do it. But then really if the first one is getting to know each other, then you're giving the homework, or then you're saying, okay, here's the next step. Can you come back next time with this or answer these particular questions? So, it's like you almost need to do 7 sessions.
Asking for a friend.
Yes.
What advice do you give to people who are sort of at a fork in the road in their career and they're trying to decide? What advice do you give them?
I think, it becomes part of that RISE-FAC assessment, but I do ask questions like, again, what do you love to do? Mm-hmm. What do you see yourself doing? Maybe you had a passion years for doing something, but you didn't go into that career, let's say. So because, you're at a job, right, for many hours a day, 5 days a week, maybe 6 days a week for that matter. So again, you have to really love what you do. And so they might throw a few different ideas at me. And then again, I can customize again, like that report. Well, like, does this even make sense to spend your energy doing? So I was like, otherwise, no, totally avoid that. If it's going to be outsourced, soon, or if it's again, like the 5 or 10 year, outlook.
Yeah.
Especially if it involves schooling where, you have
Yes,
to dedicate some extra time.
correct. Yeah. So that's kind of where, it's kind of that interview process, I think, as well, just kind of getting to learn, more about them and what those passions are. Like we talked about passions earlier.
I think too, what is the current priority? Because that changes over time. And if you're in a fork in the road where you're looking for something more meaningful versus where you're in a fork where you're like, you know what, temporarily I need to make money because I want to travel later in my life.
Correct.
Just understanding what's most important to you.
Yeah. What are your priorities? Yeah. Like I had the one gentleman who was just, I can't manage people anymore. I don't want to do it. In the high tech, I can't stand it. I'm burnt out. Mm-hmm. I get a lot of burnouts actually in my age group. So that, again, it was great to be able to take what he loved to do, analyzing data, let's say. So he pulled all the skills that he did with data analysis out of what he did, even though I hate to say that he just dumbed down his resume. I mean, we listed all the jobs that he did, but what we focused on was the first part of the resume because from my education and constant education is that I think they read a resume in 7 seconds. They peruse
7 seconds.
Have quick scan.
If that's not at the top of what those skills are, they're like, next. So your resume has to be, the top portion is so important.
Yeah.
Than just listing all your jobs and not being too wordy, no more than 5 bullet points and things like that. So I train people. It's like, okay, so I can redo your resume, but when we leave here and you're going to update or keep it updated, don't do this, do this, kind of give them advice.
I think a lot of people at the top of the resume, they put like 2 or 3 line summary of sort of your career kind of summary. And then like, obviously in chronological order, your jobs, what you did, 3 or 4 bullet points for each job. And then achievements. Is that important too?
It can be if, let's say, you're going to go towards a project management type of role.
Okay.
Then things like that what did you, like you can list projects, let's say you maybe have 3, you don't want anything more than 2 pages. 1.5 is ideal of a resume. So again, you have to be very concise in what you're going to communicate to someone on paper. But at the top, besides, it used to be called an objective. If you guys remember that from resumes, you just go objective, scrap, no, get rid of that. So that's where you say professional summary. And it's just a couple of different, maybe 2 to 3 sentences that are, short, that kind of really gives someone an overall picture of who you are as a worker.
Mm-hmm.
And then again, this core skills, that's next. And that could be, I try to do not more than 3 rows for maybe 12 of those that speak to the job. And then obviously you have to be confident in those are skills that you have. So
again, asking for a friend, Michelle.
Yes. I hope you're friends with yourself. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Your resume I do a lot of that. Whether it's creating from scratch or I ask a client, well, what do you have currently? Right. And then we go through the whole process of, okay, we're going to re-engineer this thing again from scratch. So, or can I tweak this? Because you got a good shell. So now what can I say and speak? Oh, and also engaging like adverbs, like just don't say, I did this, I did that. It's like, okay, so let's say, for instance, someone's in sales and they say like, oh, I helped reduce the company 20% in expenses, or I, increase their revenues by 20%. In other words, tangible. They want to see tangible in those 3 bullet points. Otherwise, again, out the door.
And I don't know if it's in the resume or in the interview, but I think more broadly in what are the personality characteristics a lot of employers are looking for? Reliable, good time management, loyal, just, organized.
Exactly.
So trying to fit that in somewhere.
Right. Exactly. No, I do ask them to put those traits in there. Not too many, like maybe 3 of them, so that, it kind of speaks to who you are. And hopefully people, I feel like everyone says, I'm organized. Are you though?
I don't know if this is like HR okay. I'm just going to say it, but I always ask them to scale it, like on a scale of 1 to 10, where would you put yourself?
Right. Right.
Not where you hope you'd be, but like where you realistically are in terms of time management and meeting deadlines and things like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then you have to tailor some of those questions, like hard questions. And will give me an example of how you're organized. What would you say? So again, it also depends on the interviewer. If that's something that's critical to that job, that they want to hire somebody who's very organized, but if you don't give them, a question that's going to, help them answer that, well, then everyone's going to say they're organized.
I've hired people, and I actually enjoy that process because I just enjoy talking to people in general. But like, I always would ask them, give me examples. Like, and it's more project based, really. But like, give me examples of what went right, what went wrong, because you want to hear both sides of it. And how did you respond? Because things are going to go sideways. It's how you deal with that is really more important than how you dealt with success. Because we all have success, but we're going to have failures, and we got to be able to obviously handle them.
Right. I think this is always interesting. Employers ask, tell me something that you're not good at or whatnot. Like, what kind of failure have you had? So I've always turned mine positive. So when I was interviewing, I'd say, well, I don't know if this is negative, but I'm very detailed, over detailed, in fact. So depending on who I'm working for, I might have an account, or my manager when I was in accounting, that might say, the threshold is, $1,000, write it off, let it go. And I'm like, no, I can't do that. And then I have another, boss that wanted it down to the penny, reconcile it to the penny. So again, depending on who you're working for, that was a negative for a couple of my employers. So I kind of throw that in there. It's like, oh, it's a totally negative thing, but it's who I am.
That was a beautiful answer. I can see why you're good at helping others with that.
It depends on who's, asking the question. No.
What about saying like, I'm my own worst critic?
That's not a bad one. I think that's okay. So if you can speak to that and like give a couple of examples where it's not making you look bad.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's not a bad one at all.
Okay. I've said that a couple of times.
Yeah. Yeah.
Julia, this has been great talking to you.
Well, thanks.
Again, I've really taken a lot out of this. I've been writing notes down here, talking to you. So
it's been a pleasure meeting you guys and working with you. I really appreciate your time.
Julia Evans is an education consultant and life coach, helping individuals navigate career development, college admissions, and personal growth. We can find you at theguidepathadvisors.com.
Correct. Yeah, I have a YouTube channel as well. It's at Coach Julia Evans.
Julia, thanks so much for coming on the podcast. This is such an important conversation for people.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
We just spoke with Julia Evans, who is a career counselor and mentor and life coach. And I said this at the end of the podcast, but I thought it was a really important conversation, especially nowadays, because I feel like so many people, both young and old, are dealing with some of these career kind of conversations and decisions, especially with AI. This is an important time to really rethink your career path, right?
Yes, and the job and college landscape has been changing dramatically, and people trying to find meaning is changing in a way. I think that just kind of the emotional toll everyone feels under lately makes you think about what's important to you.
Yeah.
And as we talked about, in previous shows with Matt and others about midlife, that is a time when you're thinking about realigning or figuring out who you are and what you want to do for the second half. So all of this was really helpful to think about.
Yeah. I would imagine in your practice, you probably get this question all the time, like, what the hell am I doing with my life?
Yeah. And I've seen an uptick probably in the last 5 years of people feeling more restless and less sure of themselves and just more unsettled.
Yeah.
So that question has been escalated. It feels higher stakes.
I think you're seeing more layoffs too happening. I mean, I know the job numbers don't necessarily reflect that, but I feel like there has been a lot of layoffs in certain sectors where you're seeing people, again, it goes back to like the evolution of AI and just in general, just what's going on with the economy. But like you're seeing some some people have to make some really hard decisions with their careers right now. And what's my next step? What's my next pivot? Or what else can I do? How else can I leverage my skills? And Julia, I'm sure she deals with that too. And she's helping people focus. What are your strong suits, right? And what are your strengths? And how can you leverage those?
And also some kind of convergence, I think, with a need to be more practical, converging with a lot of societal messages with these new generations of like chase your bliss and quick money being an influencer, and just like a lack of practical thinking or realistic thinking. Then coming directly in contact with the economies of the world and the geopolitical climate and all these things that are making people have to be more realistic.
Yeah.
And go more into survival mode.
Yeah. I don't think you can necessarily do what I did. I think you could do it back then a lot easier than you can do it now. I think you have to be more practical, and you have to say, you know what, do something that's going to be lucrative, and then your passion will follow. You'll get passionate about it, probably, hopefully, maybe, but at least you're making a good living, or you're supporting your family, and you can actually afford to buy a home, live the American quote unquote dream. If you do that, because maybe I'm just being an old curmudgeon here, but I'm just like, be smart about your career path and your choice. And maybe your passion is something like photography, or if it's filmmaking, or if it's theater or something, but you can still do that, right? You can still you can do it on the side and still find joy on the weekends.
Yeah. I think we're in a climate where, emotional extremity is more the norm. And so people see being practical as somehow a bad thing, or some kind of like a bridge too far kind of compromise. A lot of times, if they can't do the thing they want to do, or can't have the thing they want to have, that instant gratification or that sense of entitlement that feels bigger now these days. And when you're talking about going to college or vocational school or getting a job, having a career, these are things that need you to be thoughtful and think ahead.
Yeah.
And someone like Julia knows all the ins and outs and pieces. And I think I brought that up on the show, is like, there's things she talked about that I wouldn't even think about.
Right. What she's doing with kids, young adults in high school, that's the most important time where they need to really be thinking like about these decisions, because college, obviously, that's a lot of money. One thing I didn't ask her actually that I thought about, but what about kids who don't even want to go to college? Like, what does she tell them? And maybe they want to go into the trades, and that could be equally, if not more lucrative,
Right.
And what's that message look like?
Yeah. Again, thinking about all the alternatives to college that might be the right fit for someone and that are worthy alternatives. Community college, vocational training. These are things that, some generations didn't consider. I don't know about your parents, but my parents were like, you have to go to college.
Did I have that conversation? It was always assumed I would go to college. My sister and I.
It wasn't even a choice.
Right.
Like, it's a given.
Well, I think it was a choice for me. Yeah. But it was an obvious choice. It was like,
in terms of the expectation, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And part of that is because my parents went to college. So I think, yeah, you're right. It gets passed down. Maybe, or maybe they didn't go to college in some cases, and they really want their kids to go to college.
I think that's a big part of that generation. I think too, that generation, you were more likely to be a lifer at a company versus, I don't advocate for switching every year. I don't like seeing resumes where someone's job hopping, but at the same time, there shouldn't be a stigma in middle life in pivoting, in changing how you want to spend your time and what you want your career to look like.
Yeah.
It's scary to make a change like that, certainly. But there shouldn't be judgment to the idea of being open to other possibilities. You don't have to stay in the same career. Who says? What medal do you get at the end of your life that you stayed in the same career?
Yeah. I know there's data on this. People change careers 3 or 4 times, I think, in their life. And I don't know to what degree that means. They definitely change jobs 3 or 4 times, but I would be curious what the numbers are on career changing it. Because I would imagine after you do a job for 20 or 25 years, you're sick of it. I mean, how many firemen or cops do you know who get their 25 years in, take a pension, and they immediately start doing something else because they got another 20 years of good solid, runway ahead of them in terms of career So
Yeah.
they open up a coffee shop or something. I don't know.
It does seem counterintuitive, but when you're younger, it's a valuable time to consider, like we said, being practical and thinking about what kind of financial stability and foundation can you build for yourself.
Right.
And then as you get older, it kind of shakes out the freedom to then follow your bliss or whatever the term is, or take more seriously a passion. But you often don't have the freedom to do that if you haven't, put in a little bit of time to build some stability first.
I will say with 100% certainty that I did not think about that when I came out of college. I did not think about financial anything. Okay. I thought about, what do I want to do? What am I passionate about? What am I excited about? And that's what I did. And I didn't consider the rewards necessarily of that, or opportunities, or, I thought they were there, but I didn't think this was a path to financial freedom or to riches in any way. My question was, am I going to have fun? And I did. And,
which again is cognitively developmentally appropriate for someone at that age and stage. But, I don't understand why financial literacy isn't a required course in high school and in college. It should be one of the core requirements.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think they're starting to lean into that a little bit more now in high school, like financial literacy, like doing a checkbook
there's
whatever.
A ton of resources out there, which is great. But even like people in the workforce, if you're lucky enough to work in a company that has a 401k and a match, there's still people not enrolling themselves and taking advantage of that. And there's so many people who have jobs where they don't even get that opportunity.
Yeah. If you have that opportunity, you got to take it. That's so dumb not to.
Yes. Yeah.
You're leaving money on the table. Your future self will thank you.
That's been my mantra the past couple of years. Even when it comes to like daily chores, it's like, okay, future me will thank me. I even did that this weekend. I was like, I had to go to the grocery store yesterday and I didn't. And I was like, but tomorrow's me would be really happy with me if I had done it, if I do it now. And then I still didn't do it. So. Yeah,
that's what I say to myself about working out, Michelle. My future self will thank my future self will thank me.
I know. Somehow for you, that's a successful motivator, and I love that. That inspires me. I wish I was like you.
Well, thanks. Every day it's baby steps. Honestly, it's like a little bit here. It compounds. It's like interest. You do a little bit, you do a little bit more, and you do a little more, and it builds. It builds. It builds.
Funny, I just did a deep dive on baby steps for our show with Steven. So
yeah,
if you're listening now, go check it out. We're so generous. We have our entire archive available to you. So all you have to do is go on our website and you see all our shows. We don't hide it behind a paywall or anything. It's all free, and it's all, even the deep dives are 3 minutes long. So consider going back and listening to some of our older shows, or come on and be a guest.
Yeah.
You can email us at theunrelatingpodcast@gmail.com or go on our socials.
Is this your way of wrapping up?
I know. I guess we could have talked longer, but we just said our outro should be shorter. And yet.
Well, great conversation once again. Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you. If you're struggling with family, friends, or just life in general,
you have a bad relationship and wondering what to do,
or you want a relationship and to set yourself up for success,
then we want to talk to you. So make your appointment on Unrelating.
To be a guest, ask a question, or recommend a topic, drop us an email at theunrelatingpodcast@gmail.com.
And be sure to follow us on Instagram and YouTube.